working. Right, can you hear me?
Hey!
Yeah, can you hear me? Right, man.
Okay.
Hey,
Hey,
right.
kids. It's
Hey,
me,
mate, how are
Johnny
we getting on?
Fox.
Are we all good, yeah?
Yeah. Johnny
Good.
Fox here with another Sniktcast. And this week, well, this week, tonight, we are in the garage of grip.
I've moved camera over to show you the signs right over there, and we're set up perfectly.
But
We've got Josh and Archie as well. We've been pulling tonight. We've already started. Well, that's how we call training. It's a bit weird, but that's what we call training when it's like arm wrestling sparring, basically. So that's what we've been up to tonight already. So we just thought, yeah, we jump you in. It's an appropriate time to kind of get you in, really, pretty much.
So fantastic, kids. Everything you wanted to know about arm wrestling, but didn't know you wanted to know it. That's what you're going to find out tonight. So,
I guess we can chill out if you want. Don't worry about it.
yeah. So first things first. Several things. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do? How long you've been doing this? Oh, that's great.
Fantastic. Oh, hey, mate. I've just switched to my data because, I think everything decided.
There you go.
Yeah. It's fine now.
Yay.
My Wi-Fi is a bit choppy, I said earlier. So.
Let's go. Let's do this thing. So how long have you been into this arm wrestling like?
What? Yeah. Yeah.
How long? How long has this been a thing?
What, the sport or me in it?
Yeah, you guys. Yeah.
So for me, I've always liked strength sports basically since I was a teenager. I've always liked training. I started training for rugby, but I hated anything about sports before that, and then I just kind of went on to it. But I've always liked strength sports, and I always knew arm wrestling was one of them, and I always found it interesting. But I've never really dipped my toes into it properly until about 2021, and I started training it to just help my wrists and elbows out a little bit, because a lot of training around arm wrestling is around just training your joints, and it helped me. And I thought, I was like, oh, this is actually interesting. I might buy a table. I might start a club. Asked a couple of people, 300 quid later, maybe a bit more, and that's basically it, really. Couple of YouTube videos on how not to break his arms, and that's that. Started off.
Fantastic. So but for a complete and utter novice like myself, we all think we know what arm wrestling is, but it sounds like there's a lot more to it than what people might think.
Yeah, that's true, because it's like any sport, you know. You see people, it's like people watch it and they says, oh, why can't they do this? Why don't they just do this? It's like when you see people watch football and they say, oh, why can't the goalie just pick it up and take it to other net, like kind of to us at this point, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it. So a lot of it is just safety. So if you arm wrestle, like a lot of people say that you would in bars, you know, when they're like, oh, you don't bend your wrist, that's cheating, you have to do this. Basically, just for a little lesson in biology. So do you know when you get spaghetti and you go like that and you crack it and it makes some Italians really angry before you put it in the pot? That's what happens to your humerus bone when you arm wrestle like that. Right. Sometimes, most of the time, not most of the time, but it's a thing that can happen. So a lot of the rules around arm wrestling are made for safety and just for the purpose of keeping it more sport-like, using your entire body, stuff like that. It helps keep your bones and joints all in line. It gives you a lot more protection from hurting yourself, basically. Yeah. And it helps you produce a lot more power.
Cool. So would there be different... I don't know what you call it. Different
styles or techniques.
Types of grip, types of hold?
Yeah, so there's different styles and techniques. And it depends on your own personal strength. So there's inside and outside pulling. So pulling's just a term for like arm wrestling. It's how does he box? How does he pull?
Right.
That kind of thing. So there's inside arm wrestling, which is more about getting your elbow kind of in, going in deep, using all your frame, your joints, your body and your structure, getting onto people. let me run through a quick demonstration.
Yeah.
Would you prefer a demonstration at this point?
Go for it.
So otherwise, I'll just clear this pan out of the way. So, inside arm wrestling, what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to make it a battle of strength, basically, a battle of strength for the arms. So it's all about anatomy and all sciencey stuff. So when you go inside, you'll be going in through your wrist this way, and you'll be making it arm on arm and leaning with your body. At the same time, for safety, looking at your arm like this, looking at your hand and keeping everything in line, and your aim will be you can drive through there, so pulling it up. So the hook of it, you want it outside of here, so like that. So he's getting me to almost bicep curl. So when you do your bicep curl in the gym, when he pulls me there, I'm basically having to bicep curl his entire body, pretty much. So it's a game of like leverages, advantages. So people with shorter arms might be better at doing certain things. People might have different arm and hand strengths, wise or training wise. Does this all make sense? You get what I'm kind of saying?
No, that's great. It's interesting. So is there anything? Are there any sort of? Is there anything that's sort of like any sort of illegal techniques or something like within the rules? Are there things you can't do?
So there's some quite extreme moves. Actually, please step up for these ones. So there's always rules kind of enforced. So one of them's like fouling off the pad. So if Archie goes to pin me and I'm losing, and I slip out of there, that ends up with us being strapped together. But sometimes some people will try and do it when they know that they're going to lose, to try and get out and get to it. So some leagues implement it. It depends on leagues as well. We can go into this forever. But some leagues only allow, if you slip in a losing position, and that's this controversial one because it's down to referee's judgment. It's down to opinion. So if I'm about to get pinned and I'm out there, if I didn't slip, he would have pushed me right through to pad, basically.
Yeah.
And then there's different rules around certain moves as well. So there's different moves that you do. So the most extreme of the inside moves is called a flop press. And there's always an issue with when they go in, it's basically you give up hand, you give up your wrist and you get close to your body to almost drive them down to the pad using everything. And if you start touching your hand to the shoulder like that, that's a foul as well. So you've got a referee usually on one side or both sides, especially in a professional match. But there's also coming off the padding being a foul. So some people who press might go and try and push their opponents off the front or the back of the pad intentionally, depending where you're going. Some people might try to pull their opponents off the back, stuff like that, basically.
Right. So
there's things that you can get away with. Yeah, that's all good for now, mate. Cheers, thank you.
Okay, so you mentioned there, like in some leagues, so there are just beyond like a bunch of amateurs in a garage.
There we go. Yeah.
For fun.
This is like the most basic level. This is like the level above like people on school desks, more or less. Yeah. But it's a good level above. It's productive. We've gone to a couple of professional things, had a good old time. Yeah.
Yeah, but I would be totally unaware of the fact that there are. This is still. It can be a professional sport. It is.
Yeah, very much so. It's only just there's been a massive resurgence since COVID, and there's suddenly contracts in the sport again. It's always been topsy-turvy between like certain companies in Europe, certain companies in America. There's been like an entire different era of different rules that have come with different leagues, and it's only just kind of come to like a stable point where there's a bunch of good productions coming out, a bunch of good things basically. So there's like the more pay-per-view leagues that are like, you've got your superstar athletes, and then you've got like your general like sports ranking leagues where you build your way up. And so if you're a world champion, there could be a massive difference between being the East versus West champion, which is one of the pay-per-views, and being a world champion. The gap could be massive, basically, between them both. So that's just how deep the levels basically go. You've got all the way to us, all the way up to people who get paid to arm wrestle, basically.
That's good. I'm sure a lot of people have been pretty unaware that in 2024 arm wrestling is available as a pay-per-view sport, as a combat sport, strength sport, as you said.
Yeah, strength sport, combat sport. I said
competition.
You're sorry?
Worldwide competition.
Yeah, pretty much. It's worldwide. There's East versus West now. They invite the best from the East and the best from the West, and they all come together. Qualifiers. They have people they invite just for being superstars, pretty much.
How would you like Like what would be the equivalent of I don't know, like boxing weight classes or whatever. You know, some guys are a lot bigger than others.
It will be weight classes again, and also
Yeah.
hand classes. So you can choose if you want to arm wrestle left or right. So, like if you have a match, it's usually if you have a match with someone, it's multiple rounds on the same hand. So usually it's quite a draining process. So you might only arm wrestle with one hand at a competition. Sometimes you might have two matches. If you're in a tournament where you can get eliminated quickly, you might enter both hands just to get more time and more practice. Pretty much.
And then the super match.
Okay.
That's it. Just super matches as well. They're long wars that can last sometimes. I've seen professional ones that can be an hour of arm wrestling, basically.
Wow. That's great. So, I mean, you said you. I still think it's. I did not know. I did not know there was so much to know. I did not know it was becoming that it was at the level that it is. At this time, like I said, it's the guys in pubs who just
It's like well, it's always like you've got boxers who are like the top boxers, but then you've got people punching each other out on the street, or in pubs. It's like that's the difference, kind of thing.
I just want to come in at this moment and just say, if you like any kind of sport commentary, the commentary for the arm wrestling is the most entertaining sport commentary that you will ever listen to.
That is actually a good point.
At the World Series as well, they have an English commentator. So even though this sport in Canada and like North America and like some kind of Russian and European countries is way more popular than the UK. But they still have an English commentator or even an English introducer and MC.
Yeah, and they have a massive team of translators as well and everything. It's quite there's so much professionalism around it. The translators work really hard. They're good at what they do as well. There's a full production team around it a lot, basically.
So is there an opportunity to represent your country?
Yeah. So it's basically you go through. You can get recognised at your local scene. You build your way up for all your competitions there, kind of thing. If you get recognised, sometimes you can even just get recognised by being strong on the internet, being famous. You know, like a lot of people get through it that way by being like. Sometimes they have like YouTube superstar matches, and you might find hidden gems from them. Basically, there were a guy who were a bodybuilder, kind of strength athlete, and he's doing really well. Only 25 years old, and he's exploded onto the scene. They're getting a lot more strong men into it. Like if you've ever seen Brian Shaw, he's getting into arm wrestling now as well.
Yeah, that's crazy. Cool.
Yeah,
good.
To represent
I like it.
your country, it's like you've just got to go through a series of qualifiers, tournaments, stuff like that, or just get recognised. Because to get invited to places like East versus West, it's the tippy top. It's like the best of the best in the world. You have to be some sort of sensation to get there and really have proved your mettle. Yeah. Really have had a good record or really proven something.
Doing well.
Yeah.
So
that's another thing. Sorry, mate. That's another thing with arm wrestling as well. In terms of like leagues and how people are categorised, like who's the best in the world, who's number 1, 2, 3. It can often go on like current performances and like your last 3 or 4. You can often lose and then win and come back. It's one of those sports where you can really go to the drawing board. Yeah. You can change your training.
You have to reinvent yourself,
and you can come back as a complete different operator on the table. It's almost like, I'm sure you can do that as a golfer, but the technical ability of golf, you might have to like shape that over years. Whereas with arm wrestling, you can take on different approaches to it, if you will. It often comes around if you're injured. You've got to work around that injury. You've got to do things around that injury without hurting yourself, but which is still kind of moving, and all that medicinal movement is still actually benefiting the injured parts, the muscles around you. So in terms of rehabilitation,
so a lot of times it's like arm
wrestling's
just good for a lot of things like recovery and stuff like that as well, even if it's just not representing your country, pretty much.
Yeah.
Is there any questions?
It's not all ego. It's not all me versus you and who's the
Strongman
strongest.
TV.
It's bettering yourself. If you've got an injury and you need to support that injury, you need to kind of rehabilitate it. If it's just doing kind of stretching exercises, even if it's I don't know, just pressure.
Question as well.
Go on, video.
It's a Strongman TV contest a few years ago had arm wrestling and one of the blokes broke his arm.
Well,
oh yeah, I saw that. I'm pretty sure it was Magnus Samuelsson as well. But that's the thing. Two really strong people not really clued up on how to arm wrestle. One of them weren't. Recipe for disaster. What happens when you put a trained boxer against somebody on the street? What's going to happen generally?
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. But it put the guy off from arm wrestling. The professional who broke his arm for a long time. But even then, like Josh was saying just then, it's appropriate subject. You can come back from stuff like that. It's like we arm wrestling. Imagine you get a career-ending injury in arm wrestling. You break an arm. Get a career-ending injury in boxing or football. It's a bit worse. The outcome's a little bit worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So so I'm thinking then 4 years time. I'm thinking Olympic arm wrestling.
No,
I mean, why not?
too much steroids, too much PEDs in the sport.
Yeah,
Mate,
there's no regulations for that. Yeah.
There's no regulations. In the tippy top level, where the most entertaining athletes are, there's no regulations.
Yeah.
There's tests at other leagues, like the other top leagues, but like your main ones now. It's still underground for that. It is a bit of a free for all. Like it's
entertaining to watch, but
yeah.
I mean,
Is that the thing you'd like to see improve? You'd like to see more regulation?
Natural. But I think with the lower leagues and with the lower ability,
I think there should be more of a split, but it's always hard to do that in a sport anyway. I think.
Yeah, like with the lower, like kind of with the if you want to say semi-amateur tournaments or just the kind of like friendly competitions. There's no regulations on them. Who's on steroids, who's not. Anyway, it's not a big thing. And then back to the top, there's no regulations. So I
think at certain leagues there are tests. Like it depends. When there's more professional, you will get tested. But a lot of the places, like the big bucks or the way low places, there won't be tests and stuff like that. But it's like a lot of the time with local powerlifting meets, stuff like that, strongman stuff, they won't have time to do stuff like that unless someone's like looking really, really juicy. Hey, we've got one of the guys tuning in from as well, so that's good to see him as well.
Well, I guess it's like anything else. It's money, isn't it? The more awareness people could have, the more tickets you could sell, or pay-per-view buys or whatever. Then the more money there'd be for tests, doctors, and things to have a tighter grip.
You're doing that forever. It's a never-ending battle with any sport. Same with weightlifting in Olympics. Yeah. It's like the most impressive results come from it, but in an ideal world, you'd have a split, but it's not like an ideal world, is it? There'll still be tested leagues, they'll be untested. I think that's just the way the cookie crumbles. But the good thing is that the sport's just growing, it's going in a good direction. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah. Well, it certainly sounds like it. It's definitely like, I can't certainly say it's a million times bigger than I ever imagined it was. It's not a thing that's crossed my path until being put in touch with you guys, but I do genuinely find it really interesting. I don't think my baby arms are any use to take part, but
you'd be surprised though. I didn't have the best when I started out. I just had to train. But some people have surprising abilities when they start to train. Like one of the world champions who runs all the East versus West said he were getting beat in his class by girls when he first started. And then he went on to become like one of the track records of one of the best of his weight class at all time. So like,
that leads us into a question. Is women's arm wrestling?
Yes, there is, and it's actually there's a new star in it, and she's I think she's 6'3", and you're talking about I think it's 275 pounds, but I can't convert that. But so there's some like super freaks in the women's categories as well. Level wise, it's not the same as the men's like any other sport, but there are some genuinely impressive women in the sport. It's like there's been a lot of really technical battles. East versus West, we've got to see a lot more women's representing. Like you've probably seen a viral video, a woman going really in it and screaming and like that crazy stuff. And there's a lot of matches that have been like that coming from women's arm wrestling. Some really, really interesting matches, really entertaining.
Ah, fantastic. So, so you guys are based in Barnsley, right?
Yeah.
And then, is this a friends thing, or can someone watching this get in touch and perhaps join?
It's a friends thing mainly. Like I like people I trust. It's like it's my place and it's like my family place. I have people I trust here. Yeah. So it's not like anyone can just walk in. There's people I'll let in kind of thing. Have any of you tried the captain of crushed wrist trainers? If it's the grippers, yeah, I have, and they're really not that good. Not that good for me. I'm not good at them. We were trying them out at an event that we went to on Sunday because they had loads of like grip lifting stones and that set up and everything. That was pretty fun. But yeah, captains are crushed with these. Have you ever seen grip trainers?
No. No.
So you just squeeze them shut like that. And captains and crush are like a famous brand that go to multiple like kilos basically going around.
Yeah.
And you have to really have the crushing strength to do them. But it's quite a difficult one. It's a great feat of strength, but not the best round wrestling training. But it's cool if you can do it, basically.
So what is what is like what's the training regime like for you guys? Is it just
It's arm wrestling training still in its infancy, so it's kind of all. So for me, in my own critique, it's like some people like to arm wrestle a lot. Some people like to do more weights and then arm wrestle to see where they're at, like sharpening, like forging the sword and then sharpening it on the table. Whereas some people build themselves on the table and then they'll train around it and do like training for recovery. Like Josh said earlier, a lot of the training is around recovery, like high reps and different like rehabilitative techniques. It's like one of the pros says to be like water. You've got to really flow your training around how your table makes you feel because it's such high impact. It's like, because whenever you get pulled up and on a table, it's like when you go to gym and do a near max bench press and fail it. And you're just doing it over and over and over again. So you've really got to get used to it and you've really got to watch yourself. So a lot of it is practice. For me, especially as a noob, I think like getting practicing as much as you can within reason is the best thing to do. But there's also a general weight training that you can do to support it as well.
So what would be your take on? I don't even know if this is relevant. That's why we're talking. But it's like just brute force, just the strength versus technique.
Well, Larrett, the most famous arm wrestler, has said like the rule number one of arm wrestling is be strong, because when you think about it, it's like, what good is technique when there's a concrete wall coming down on your arm? It's that strong. You know what I mean? There's like technique mostly matters when the strength gap is close. Right. Like your strength, overall strength will determine where you are, but it's strength in certain muscles. Basically, certain muscles of your forearm. So people say it's technique, but you have to be strong enough to perform a technique. So like people say bending your wrist is cheating, but at the same time, there's someone trying to bust out of there. And if you're not strong enough to hold that, you're going to lose. Or you're going to lose position.
Yeah, I mean, because you really, as sort of like one-on-one competition goes, you're about as like just close as a sport's going to get, right? I mean, I was just thinking like with strength versus technique. I was thinking about sort of like in martial arts or something where like the smaller, seemingly weaker guy with a higher skill technique level could take down the bigger guy, you know, through his skill and techniques. Whereas for you guys, that gap's a lot. That's the skill and the technique guy would kind of win every time. You think? 99%.
Well, it depends on the strength in specific areas, because to arm wrestle, you have to strengthen specific areas in your wrist, in your forearm. So they could be stronger than you in everything else, but except those little specific muscles, and you could beat them. But at the same time, they could be able to use their strength in a way that you just get ripped open before you can even use your arm muscles. Not ripped open physically, but like you pull down and you lose. It just depends on the person, and it depends on the specific muscles, basically. So, excuse me, I'm a bit... So, let me just try and show a demonstration. So, for arm wrestling, you'll be training a lot of specific things that people don't usually train. So, for this, I've got a belt around my finger like this, and I'll be rotating my arm like that. No one else really trains that anywhere else. So that muscle will be able to disengage them from their strengths, basically, in some cases, depending. But sometimes you might go against a big guy who's never arm wrestled in his life and he's just too strong. And that's just the way it is. Sometimes it might be someone small who's never arm wrestled in their life and they're just too strong. Yeah. But that's just like any sport, basically. There's always people who are going to just be a bit bigger and a bit better. But sometimes, like, it's the strength in certain areas and being a little bit more mindful of how you use your strength that'll get someone to win matches. So someone bigger and stronger might try and hold on using their strength of their arm like that, while someone's on top of them and they'll drain themselves. And even though they're stronger, they've just made a bad decision to basically try and bicep kill someone, like going back to earlier. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. So
they put all the energy. They put all the energy into one muscle, and the other person's used everything. All their strengths have been used more efficiently, basically against them.
Yeah. So there's still quite a lot of sort of like strategy and tactics to.
Yeah, you've definitely got to think, especially when the strength gap is close. You've really got to be on the ball for anything.
Yeah. So like if you could watch a bunch of your opponents' sort of previous matches and things like that to get an idea of
you definitely
like I said, where their strengths lie, so you can try and counter that.
But you've also got it's a mix between countering them, like you've said, and forcing your style onto them as well. Right. Can't do that. I think we're going to a question. Shall I just read the questions as they come through if I see them?
Go for it.
Do you do exercises to prevent injury to your arm and shoulder? Yeah, a lot of arm wrestling exercises are for preventing injury. So, like I did earlier, the rotation, there's wrist curls, just general weight training. There's different styles of doing it. High reps. Some people do high reps for rehab. Some people do isometrics where you just hold to work your tendons, and that'll all strengthen it. But the most important thing to do it is to just be safe, have good form, and just get time. Practice on the table safely. Push your limits safely, like every now and then. Test, see where you are, pretty much. But a lot of the exercise prevention is not from a specific exercise, but it's from just good management of the exercises that you do. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So a lot of it, but a lot of exercises that we do just to keep things moving is like the reverse of what we do on the table. So we do like stretches for shoulders with bands or with weights. We'd even just train the muscles like we're on the table. Like I did earlier with that belt, I'd do that to train my wrist. There's a bunch of different stuff. I've got like everything's just a bunch of for arm wrestling training. It's just a bunch of handles and stands and cables taped together. Basically, that's what arm wrestling training mostly is.
Yeah.
It's all wacky little things to hit different angles of your wrist and every specific muscle that you use. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. So there's so would you say there's if someone getting into arm wrestling as a sport, would you say there's like I guess then there'd be sort of like real life benefits to as you build that strength, I guess.
You probably
just being
get a lot of money
healthier and stronger for real world activities, you know.
Well, for me, I started because I did a sport before this. I did Olympic lifting, so like a lot of all the funky, all that stuff. And I started arm wrestling training because a lot of it is like restorative. It's to help, like I said, Josh said it earlier, restorative training, rehabilitation training. So a lot of it can help. And I found that my strength in my arms and wrists has grown a lot better because I've not got the thickest wrists. But now I find they don't hurt as much. They're a lot more flexible. Not so much today because I'm really sore still, but yeah, pretty much. I'd say it's good to just keep you in general shape. And the thing is, a lot of the stars, like the greatest of all time, still competes at 60, and he's still gunning for the top of his weight class and even beating people above it. He's still like nearly right up there.
Yeah.
And he's, like I said, he's 60, but it's because when you look at arm wrestling overall, earlier, like I said, career-ending injury in arm wrestling is not that severe. So the overall strain on the body in arm wrestling is not that bad compared to other sports. You get a lot of aches and pains up here, not much or anything else really. So it's good to kind of keep you going, or it's a sport that you go to when... I personally went to it when I realised that I couldn't carry on training the sport that I was doing before, and I found this a much more sustainable way to train. I'm not saying it's like a lazy sport, but I'm saying it's more convenient for my needs. Like it's more accessible and it's less draining on my entire body as a whole. So I found it more useful to train for me than things I've done before. It's a more sustainable way to train if you can deal with the aches and pains, basically.
So it's relatively early days in your career.
Pretty much, because I've been going for nearly 3 years, but I've not been going as consistent. I've just been trying to tide over a lot of time. I've not been well most of it, so I've just been trying to keep this thing going, basically. I've only really started properly getting ball rolling and trying to get onto the scene properly. I'm going to more professional clubs, trying to get myself to events. And hopefully things just go from there.
Yeah, do you have, plans to try and get competitive and get involved and really
so this weekend we all had a good old time. We all like feeling really well motivated. It were a Circle of Arms event and a Grip Fest event, so there were different stones to lift and there were different matches between teams and tournaments. It was really great, and everyone always wants to practice on a table off to the side, so I'm really sore. Everyone else seems to be fine. I haven't messaged one of the other guys. I'm pretty sure he's suffering. So he looked like a broken man while we were there towards ending it. But yeah, we had a really good time. So I'm thinking just hopefully get in touch with one of the guys at the clubs around near. Hopefully just get chatting to them, see what opportunities they've got, or get in touch with one of the organisations around the country and see what they're doing, basically. Because it's really easy, because it's such a niche spot, it's easy to get in touch with people.
Yeah.
It was like to the back guys. It's true.
You were pulling for 5 hours, weren't you?
Yeah, we all arm wrestled for about 4 hours that day. We're absolutely disgusting. So I can understand why, because I was just putting on a brave face, to be honest with you.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, we're just gonna move on a little bit.
Yeah, take it away.
Just gonna do a little thing I like to do. If anyone else wants to get involved, if it's Josh or whatever, or you can do it by yourself, we're just gonna play. We're gonna get to know. We've got to know an awful lot. I certainly know like 1,000,000 times more about arm wrestling than I did.
Have I explained it in a good way? I haven't gone too fast, have I?
No, not at all, not at all. Because like I came into this
already,
like,
was already eager for whatever this is.
Like when I got in touch with you off camera, and it's like I'll try and get some of the guys involved. We'll settle the camera. I'll show you the equipment. I'm like, equipment? You mean arms? You know, that was the extent of my knowledge. You know, like there's equipment.
There is equipment.
The very idea that there was
it's
equipment
easy.
was crazy.
It's so easy to get in touch and use. Like, my favourite piece of training equipment is a tea towel with some tape around it. And it's been responsible. Yeah, grab the tea towel. There we go. Look at this. Look at this. I just use it to strengthen my wrist. And it's perfect.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so
there's also things like this. It's like a fat grip that goes around the grip that obviously enables you to get a bigger grip, which obviously improves different parts of your muscles, I guess. Gives a different kind of squeeze on the muscle in the hand.
So it's just,
I think it replicates the hand better, really, than being on a thin grip.
So what's the game? What are we saying? What are we going from here?
I always like to play just a little bit of this or that.
This or that.
Let's do it.
This or that. There's no wrong answers.
Listen,
unfortunately, there's no prizes. So it's all good. You'll get the gist of it. I'll start as I always do with cats or dogs.
Dogs.
Both.
I was going to say
can you say both? I'm a both guy.
You would have to use cats, mate. Put you on the cat side.
I've got 2 little kittens at the minute, so I'm going to have to say cats.
Oh.
7 dogs. You have to say dogs.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question: beer or wine?
Yeah.
I don't drink, but if I did,
That's a both again, by the way. But beer.
In the same glass.
Beer. Go with beer. I think I'd have to go with beer.
I drink more beer than wine, so
yeah, it's harder to find a good wine than it is to find an okay beer, or maybe I'm just not that educated on it. So I'd go beer just to be safe. I think beer is like, I'd rather go to a pub and order a beer than a wine. It's my safer option if I were to, you know. So, yeah, beer.
Yeah. Okay. Pizza or kebab?
Pizza. I threw up a kebab on someone's stairs when I had a party like in school, so I just didn't like it. You're not wanting to get on this, actually. You just.
There you go.
So just, oh, you could have just jumped up, man. Yeah.
Okay, here's one.
Like the big guy.
Hey.
Go.
Oh, it's a 3-way dance. Okay. Country retreat or city living?
Country retreat.
I'm torn, you know, because I'm
a country lad.
Yeah, country retreat.
When you're born in South Yorkshire, that's what it's about, isn't it?
I sometimes like the city. I might have to go city living, but I haven't been to the country much, so I haven't really got a say on it. So.
2 days in a city max, and then I'm out of there. It don't matter if it's New York, London, or whatever.
That's fair. I'd go country because I've probably stayed longer in a countryside thing, but yeah, I'll go country.
Why not? Okay. Would you rather go skydiving or scuba diving?
Scuba diving. Scuba diving.
Scuba diving.
You've got new things to see when you scuba dive. When you skydive, you're just a bit more scared and
What
you're
is the
thinking
new
about
space?
parachute. Yeah, there's just a bit. You're just looking down at stuff that you see every day, innit? Like, and you're just falling. In scuba diving, you're actually seeing things that are like could be really beautiful. I don't know. There might be something different with skydiving and how it feels, but I'd prefer scuba diving.
Yeah,
That's just me.
same risk factor anyway, depending on where you scuba dive.
But I'd go scuba diving.
I think the skydive is just more of the white knuckle adrenaline thing, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's
Where,
just
like you said, scuba diving, there's scenery involved. Okay. Big parties or small gatherings?
Depends. I think small gatherings though, smallish gatherings for me. Yeah, because we always gather in here as well. So yeah, small gatherings I would say. For me,
Quality
gatherings.
over quantity.
Would say both. In fact, big parties. Let's all unite. That's the one, innit? So let's all get in on it.
Okay.
Stefan, what are you thinking?
Probably small parties.
Yeah.
It tends to be the most our small gatherings like that, aren't they?
Yeah. Big parties is just too much cleaning up, man. There's too much messing about.
Keep your circle tight.
It's always a good idea, and then it's usually not. It's just too big.
Yeah, no,
pretty much get broken, or depending on the context. But like you'd never quite. It's not much of a party if you've got to spend all night trying to make sure you've seen everyone and say thanks for coming and shaking their hand and everything instead of enjoying yourself. That kind
Fine. Big party if you're not hosting. Small gathering if you are hosting.
Yeah, no, that's
the
balance. I think that's the balance. Yeah, you might have it.
Okay. Here's the tricky one. Would you rather have money or free time?
Free time is money.
Yeah, and now probably just literally the
trick question, right?
Free time, you can get money from it. Yeah. So, no, but at the same time, the money gets you the free time, but it's just where does the lack of free time come from if you have the money though? Oh no, I'm thinking about this too much now. I'd say free time because like you said, if you've got all the free time, you can find something to do with it for the money.
Does meaning money that you haven't got free time, or have you got the same circumstances that you already currently have?
Yeah, well, you see, this is it. This is what like I say, you start thinking too much.
It is what it is.
It is one of them.
It's very my decision.
If a genie came to grant me a wish, like you've heard of the terms and conditions, haven't you? You know, so it's
we've
got to talk about the
Nice garage. Yeah, we have the party pad in this garage. It is a good one. It's just the zone, really.
There's a bar in the corner.
This is just a part of it. This is just the gym corner, pretty much. Yeah. There's even a street fighter to keep all his reflexes all tuned in and everything. So yeah,
there's 1v1 Zaki like.
There we go. Exactly. Practical training and all that.
Okay, so would you rather see a puppet show or a magic show?
Magic show.
Magic show.
Magic show. So what would you? Do you like the close-up magic?
I just like the illusion of it, and I like the skill behind it because I think it's an art anyway. At the end of it, puppetry is as well, but I think the illusion behind it and the more mystique behind the magic part, and like it always kind of leaves you thinking. It's like, oh, why did he do that? What did it? And it's usually impressive when you go to see one. They don't let crap musicians go to places, hopefully, but ones I've seen aren't that bad, I think. So, I'd probably go see a magic show if it were good. If it were a good magic show.
I've seen some cool magic shows.
Yeah.
So,
you can have a drink at a magic show. I don't know about that at a puppet show.
Yeah, that's all.
I mean, puppets doing magic for me, but yeah. But yeah, I like the sort of smaller scale magic. You can make the Empire State Building disappear. I'm just not buying it. Like,
TV magic is not good.
It hasn't, but
yeah, like
I said, when you just
small scale illusions, like at the performing street level, do you mean, rather than the big stuff that's
the sort of street magic? They just pick a card, any card shit.
Yeah, I like
it's
like you need that stuff to go on to the big stuff. Without stuff like that, all that stuff with the Empire State Building and whatever, that wouldn't have even existed.
Yeah. I like playing card games so I can admire the trick of the hand with like hand magic and that kind of thing. That's cool. I like the human stuff.
Yeah,
I like the escapism.
Really good at it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Polka dots or stripes?
Stripes.
Let's go
Stripes.
polka dots. Why not?
Polka dots or stripes.
Why
what
not?
do you think?
Why not?
Stripes.
Okay.
Stripes. Polka dot.
Now, the often controversial ones. We'll finish off with. Would you rather be a vampire or a werewolf?
Vampire.
Hybrid. Hybrid.
Yeah, I think
that's a
vampire.
good
I'm
shout.
I'm like a
That'd
night
be a
guy
shit.
anyway. I get most of my energy just before I'm supposed to go to
Just
sleep
a massive
anyway. So
combo.
like sleeping in day, I won't feel the peer pressure to get up like I do. I'd look, you know.
I like the
innit?
sun too much. I'd have to be a werewolf.
Depends how close. It depends how close I am to like
But
wooden stakes and that though. You know.
I vibe with the vampiric
No,
law though.
I don't know though. I don't know though because I can't eat garlic anymore, and that's quite a big deal breaker to me.
I'd be
This
of the
is awful.
lichen strain, I think.
I'd have to go werewolf just on the fact that I can't have garlic anymore. I think that's swayed me. So yeah, I'd rather I'd rather not have silver than not have garlic. That's one thing for sure.
That's one way of looking at it, because everybody picks vampire. You know, they're sexy, they're Hollywood cool. Everybody picks vampire, and I have to keep.
Yeah, but I bet there's
96
drawbacks to both of them that suck anyway. So I can't like the best thing.
You know, there's nothing wrong with being a fucking hairy mammal. I'm telling you, it's all right. It's not a bad life.
So, well, there used to be some up here, but it's all gone now, basically. A couple of weeks ago, if we're doing a couple of weeks ago, I'd have maybe, I don't know if I'd have rivaled you, but might have done some.
So this may be irrelevant, maybe not. Let's see what it jumps up. Star Trek or Star Wars?
Before you even say old Star Wars.
Easy.
Yeah, evidently.
Easy work. Yeah. Not the newest stuff. It's a bit. I don't like the way that it's all Marvelified now, but I don't want to complain about it because I'm not bothered. I just like the classic Star Wars stuff, and I just watch that.
I like both, which so
I can understand.
I mean, most people like both, right? Most people like both, but it's just fun to ask.
Yeah,
Much
just
like
lasers and people jumping about with stuff. If you think about it too deep, that's when you start getting like upset over note, really, innit? With Star Wars, you just take it for it is, and it's jumping about with lasers and mystical powers, isn't it? And having a good time.
Like anything, I like the hidden meaning behind everything. So, like the artistic perception that everyone's got, the individual, but also the hidden meaning in things. Yeah. Is pretty cool. I studied film at uni actually, so I've studied all kinds of old weird films, the first films, the real films, all that kind of stuff, and all the hidden meanings within it all is, it's like signs that are shown to us that aren't shown to us. It's how deep you want to look into it, which I think is fascinating, like the Matrixes and the Terminators and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. That's all cool.
It's something as basic level as like other quotes in movies as well that can be used for inspiration. I think every movie has its own kind of thing about it, doesn't it? Like as surface level or as deep as you want to look at it, really. Which I think that's it's like with English exams, anything that you can disassemble a lot of things. You know, when you think about it.
The lore within Star Wars, though, pretty cool.
Yeah, I think I think bringing up the Matrix is a great example. You can sit back and enjoy just a fun kung fu movie, or it can go on a whole other level.
Yeah, depending on how many times you watch it.
That as well.
And maybe what substances you're taking while you're watching it, who knows?
Yeah, although I do feel like we only needed one. I feel like that the first movie was enough for me.
I watched Sharknado, mate, and I didn't have anything, and that was still the weirdest trip I have ever seen in my entire life. But I had a good time watching it, so.
So what was let's stick with the movie theme then, as is the mainstay of what I do on the channel. What was the last movie? It doesn't have to necessarily be a new movie, but what was the last movie you guys watched that you'd recommend to someone?
My days, man.
Ooh.
Movie. I had a series. I really did movie. Deadpool versus Wolverine. Is it good?
Yeah,
You'll like it, yeah.
He said Deadpool Wolverine. If you heard that.
What movie do I really just like? I don't know, because my taste in movies, I don't know if it's something you'd recommend anyone, or then when it's the ones that I will, it's too basic. I'm just thinking.
I think the last film I watched was Dune Part 2.
Is that good? Because
and
I don't know, do you recommend Dune to me?
Yeah,
I've never seen it.
I think that it's decent. I think it's like a really cool concept on like the future on what technology could be. It's not
Gritty,
too
innit,
far
from what I've
fetched.
heard. It's like,
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's decent. So it's not as sci-fi as Star Wars, but there are some like new technologies and that kind of thing. It's advanced technology and that kind of thing. And I just like that sci-fi lore type stuff.
oh, fan movie. Bullet Train, if you've seen that one.
Bullet Train,
That one with Brad
fun. That was super
hitting
fun.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, because
Very.
my girlfriend recommended we watch it, and I was like, oh, I don't like action movies, generic one, blah, blah, blah. I watched the trailer and I'm like, oh, this looks interesting. I had a good time watching the entire thing. So yeah, Bullet Train, 'cause it doesn't take itself seriously, basically.
A film I'd definitely recommend, which is one of my favourite films, is Them. And I don't know if you've seen that. You probably have. It's a famous film with Roddy Piper in it from the WWE. He puts on the glasses and everything he sees the real truth.
I don't know the street brawl.
Yeah, what's one of the most famous street ball? I think
it was the longest unbroken fight scene.
Yeah, like 5.5
minutes.
Yeah.
Is it just like a proper good scene, like they're all right?
Yeah, it's just a fight scene.
It's cool because it's pretty realistic, isn't it? It really is just
he's basically
brawl. You haven't got any. They don't use any fancy moves and techniques and shit to look cool. They just have at it.
Very Roddy Piper is
working class guys
at WWE.
Yeah, I've heard he was good in stuff. Roddy Piper, like, I haven't seen it. I've only seen him in It's Always Sunny, and that's the extent of me seeing Roddy Piper in things basically. And even that were a decent enough thing to know that he's probably good at what movies he's in.
But yeah, the symbolism in that film is amazing. Like when he puts the glasses on and looks at someone holding some money, and instead of it being money, it says like "I am your master" or what, stuff like that. It's really because it's
gets your brain cogs turning a little bit.
The symbolism and like marketing and sales, it's everywhere.
Lincoln Lawyer and Deja Vu.
Just a nice little hidden message within the film. I think it's pretty cool. So that's a cool film to watch, and it has got cool fight scenes. It's got the famous scene where he goes into the bank and he says, "I'm here to chew bubblegum and kick ass," and I'm all.
Oh, is that the film that?
I
know the one. I only know it from Duke Nukem, but I know it was from.
You'll have seen all the memes from it.
I need to watch. I need to get rid of that.
And obviously, some of the people are
aliens.
Like
I'm missing out big time.
So obviously, some of the people's faces are these like aliens, and he can see them with the glasses, and they're kind of like, "Oh, we've got one. He spotted us," and it's like the hidden matrix within everything, and it's cool.
Sounds like a dystopian version of the Truman Show, basically.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of everything, isn't it?
It's been heavily borrowed from
Lincoln Lawyer and Deja Vu in the comments as well.
Good call. Deja Vu's. Is that
I feel like I'm really out of the loop on this currently now.
Yeah. So, do you guys then? Is there either like a particular actor? Actress. I think we're just supposed to call them all actors now, apparently. But actor or actress, or perhaps director, where it's just if they're involved, you know you're watching it. You know, like you don't need to know what the storyline is or whatever. You just go, if they're in it.
I'm just thinking. Yeah, maybe Tarantino, just 'cause it's all wacky. But then again,
let's say it's an example.
No, though, it's like, because I'm always hit and miss with movies. I'm a bit weird with them. I'm just.
Sorry, I've forgot the name of the director now. He's the chuffing director of The Gladiator. He's doing The Gladiator 2 coming up. He did the Alien series.
Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott. Of course, obviously anything he directs I think's amazing. I think, I can't wait for Gladiator 2. I think that's going to be an amazing film. From what I've seen of it so far, it looks like it's going to leave off from the last one better than that.
I even seen this while I need to reel it back, to be fair. I'll be watching it completely fresh if I come to watch it again, basically. So yeah, I need to get watching.
I love like the gritty British stuff as well. Like the kind of like Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrel type films, Snatch, those kind of type films. I think that's always cool. Maybe because we're from the UK or whatever, but it hits home hard, do you know what I mean? It's real.
It's relatable in some way. You see what you see when you're out and about in your everyday life,
to the culture
kind of thing,
and to the country it's filmed in and whatever. You know what I mean? It's interesting.
Cause it's interesting to see what other people think in it. Because to us, it's so simple and like but to other people, it's such an interesting thing seeing this culture, and to us, it's just something that kind of goes off.
There is a film with Sylvester Stallone that's all about arm wrestling as well, and everyone who asks me about arm wrestling, they always say, "Oh, have you seen this film? Do you know what the film's called?"
Over the Top.
Over the Top.
The guy who won the
I've not seen it, but apparently it's good.
Yeah, the guy who won the actual Over the Top, they hosted a real tournament. Have you seen the movie?
Yeah.
The arm break in the tournament were real. They filmed a real tournament there, and John Brasink, the greatest of all time, who I told you about earlier, the 60-year-old guy, he won the tournament and he won the truck. The real tournament that they hosted for it, pretty much. And I think they've tried to recreate. They did Over the Top in Australia, but it weren't a movie. It was just like the mimic that setting. They did Over the Top Down Under. That looked pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's as a film, I'm not sure it's Sly's greatest moment, really.
I haven't seen it. I'll watch it.
If you were to ask me what recommend a film, I'd literally, I'm a bit of a geek. I'd be like watch Lord of the Rings and The Hobbits. And,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
not The Hobbits for me so much. I like Lord of the Rings. I would definitely go Lord of the Rings though, 100%. The Hobbit's okay when you need to fill the gap after Lord of the Rings, but it's just not the same kind of to me.
Yeah, I mean, I really thought, I don't know, when that original trilogy, when the Lord of the Rings trilogy did what it did, was as successful as it was, and made all the money it made, and I'm a big fan of, Dungeons and Dragons and elves and wizards and dwarves and fantasy stuff. I like that. I like me sci-fi. But
we're in as well. We love stuff like that over here. So yeah,
I like a bit of sword play, So I thought, great, that'll open the floodgates. Everybody's going to jump on that bandwagon. We'll get some shit ones, but we'll get some other good ones, and fantasy will be back. Like I'm a big Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, but our fantasy's a bit lame nowadays. How it's just a generic band comes together and goes on quest and blah blah blah, and it's not.
And it just with the exception of Game of Thrones, there really hasn't been that much. Nobody's really. Hollywood doesn't seem to have really took a chance, no matter how successful Lord of the Rings was. Doesn't seem to have really.
Yeah. I think it's made it harder to get the rights though to it. I think, didn't they? So they didn't just give away the rights, and I think that put a massive stop to the quality of whatever could be produced.
I enjoyed the TV series, but it was nowhere near the scope it could have been.
Have you got to interpret it as its own thing almost? You've got to just
I mean, you do. It's filmed differently. I wouldn't recognise it within the same kind of scope of the films. Even the Hobbit films. I mean, the Hobbit films were just.
You'd watch it if you just wanted to watch a fantasy thing.
But if you watch The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, you can clearly distinct that they come from the same reality.
Yeah.
Even how they've been filmed down to the narrative, down to just the angles that has been used and just the kind of storytelling of it all. Whereas the budget that they have for Mandalorian and Ahsoka and the new one that's just been the Star Wars series on Disney?
Yeah.
I forgot the most recent one.
Acolyte.
Something like that.
Fantastic. I think they're the budget that they've been filmed at and created. They map in with the films, if not the quality of the films, and they kind of take it to another level, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, man. We'll get a big session.
Shame it couldn't be Saturday about the Lord of the Rings.
Saturday, I mean, sorry.
Sorry, we've just got a guy leaving.
Yeah, she's just leaving us. We just had a little bit of a training session. It's right out, but we get used to fall back. I'll see you later, mate. I'll catch you in a bit. No, Archie's just going. He's one of our basically heavy hitters of his club. I'm on recovery from this weekend. He's fine. He's completely fine, basically. I'm very sore.
So when we're talking of gripping hold of things and wrist strength, do you play video games much?
Yeah, I do. Not as much as I used to. I used to get hammered into COD, but we all current multiplayer now. It's all seasonal. You've got to do this, you've got to do that, and it's just it's just keeping up with it, really, basically. And I've just kind of started playing some simpler games that not all. One of them's a bit older. I've started playing for all the Assassin's Creeds. No, not all of them. I started with the pirate ones because I don't like the normal Assassin's Creed stuff. I like the more modern mechanics of them, like, basically. And then I've been playing Monster Hunter Rise as well.
I absolutely loved Monster Hunter World before Rise. I played a bit of Monster Hunter here and there, but it was World that absolutely blew me away, got me hooked. We've been through Rise, me and my boy, but it's and the new one. I think when it next year.
Yeah, I'm getting in on that
looks...
before Call of Duty, to be honest with you. I think this is first year in a bit. I'm not going to buy COD, and I'm probably going to buy Monster Hunter, the new one.
Yeah, it's if it does half of what they claim it's going to do, like with actual weather systems and the birds and
I just don't think it's going to be more cross-platform as well, because I want to get with people on Switch, basically. Because, excuse me, if the people I know has got Switch, see you later, mate. See you later, man. So yeah. But I've used a bit of Monster Hunter. We're doing a Monster Hunter inspired D&D campaign going down line. Well, not D&D, it's tabletop, me and my brother. So we've got a couple of inspiration things. You can hear my dog's there, that's why I'm a dog person. Sometimes I question why, but there we go.
Right, so see, I have some hardcore D&D friends. They've been playing for 20 years. I think they're still on the same campaign. No, but they have just finished an epic multi-year campaign that they were in.
Sorry, me and Josh just looked at each other like, whoa. We literally battled. Me and Archie battled. We've just tested some of his battle scenarios, and it were an hour yesterday. I think me and you went for about 40 minutes on our scenario as well. So yeah, ours is just in its infant stages, and it's like alpha testing stages, basically.
Yeah. But it was something that, like, I always wanted to do. I always thought looked like something I could get into, but I never had the friends. I could never get anyone else interested when I was younger.
The in thing until recently, basically, it's become like with Stranger Things and all that. I think it's become a bit more of a popular thing. But I like that because I've got invested in it. We're basically on it, more or less. We're planning D&D. It's fun to do and it's easy. Like D&D is literally wherever you want, basically.
Well, this is it. I mean, now I feel like I'm like so late to the party, and I'm getting like now I actually know people that are into it, that I do it, and they're inviting me to game night, and I'm like, you don't want to have to babysit a total fucking noob through every last thing, and they're like, oh, dude,
it's like we
actually love doing that.
Grateful. They'll probably just be grateful to have you on. It's like when we have new people at club, we think like, oh, they're going to be an experience and they're not going to be that easy to work with to start with. But like at the end of the day, you're going to end up with someone new, and that's how people come into things. So like, you shouldn't be scared of starting something new because that's how everyone starts things, So you might as well. Like, what you got to lose if you're not good at D&D? What's the big issue? You probably get better at it. Like, how does someone be bad at D&D? You know what I mean? It's literally you being you, really.
Yeah. They're always like, oh no, it's okay. We love explaining it all. Any opportunity to go into the
there you go. It's exactly the same as
D&D. It's more than welcome. But
it's like I think people should be like if you want to go into something and you're new, you shouldn't be scared. And I think that's the main thing. Like, you shouldn't be worried about it. Like, what's the big deal? Like with arm wrestling as well. What's the big deal? You lose an arm wrestling match. Oh no. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you could get injured. Yeah, but you could get injured playing D&D. Technically, it's not impossible. It's not like, but it's like all like that, really.
Yeah, I mean,
if you wanna.
Paper cuts can be harsh, man.
That's it, innit? Paper cuts and burst blood vessels from our infuriating things.
Yeah, you get a paper cut on your finger, and it's right where it wants to bend, so it's really hard to heal because you keep opening it up every time.
Well, I was going to call
it it's a nightmare.
Yeah, I went blackberry picking, and I got formed, and all like that's it. Straight in the soft part of the knuckle. It's one of them things.
Oh, fantastic! 2 questions that could have really long or really short answers,
Right.
and I'll
Hey, that's
wrap
good.
this up and let you get off. Two questions that I've started asking everybody. Have you ever seen a ghost?
Hmm?
Have you ever seen a ghost?
No, I can't say that I have. Cannot say that I have. To be
No?
honest. Yeah.
Did you have any take on ghosts at all? Is
Well,
it
I've had.
just complete hogwash? Do you think it's possible?
Yeah, I don't see why not. Why would you close your mind off? Like, there's a lot of crazy things. Like, why would you close your mind?
Can't see. I think.
Yeah, there's loads of stuff you can't see. Why would you close your mind off to something? Like, if you're completely closed-minded, like, what's the point in like doing all? Because you're just gonna think like, I think there could be. I think people have seen them. People who've seen them. Sometimes they can be valid. Obviously, sometimes they might not be. Sometimes it might be due to another thing. But that's just it's like oh really, isn't it? But I've had like the closest I've got to paranormal experiences is when I have sleep paralysis, and that's a bit wacky.
Right.
Like even with sleep paralysis, I find it so weird that there's like common themes between like the things that appear during sleep paralysis. So much so that there is a painting of a creature that I've seen in sleep paralysis that exists in a French painting from the 1700s, basically. Something like that. Have you seen that one before? Have you ever seen the night?
I've heard the story. I've heard people give me the same story.
So
Yeah.
it's the nightmare. It's a little imp-like creature sitting on someone's chest. It's the painting of I think it's a French lady all laid out in bed, and it's there squatting on her chest. And I've had sleep paralysis episodes before. I've seen creatures with like not like that, but with glowing eyes of like imp-like stature sat before. I've seen creepy things like that, and it's like it's so crazy that multiple people also see that as well. You know what I mean? It's a common theme. I find it really interesting almost.
It is. So, I'm sure you've had a deja vu, right?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, we've all had a deja vu. Have you ever had? I mean, what the fuck is that? Straight away. But, and I ask this because it's something I've personally experienced. So I want to know just how alone I am in this experience or not.
Yeah.
But I've had deja vus, like really big deja vus, like kind of, I guess, a bit like a waking dream. Um, but like that thing that triggers the deja vu, the cat walks past and you knew it was going to do that, that typical deja vu scenario.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then almost the cat walking past triggers me to go, and then this is when they knock on the door. Fuck. And this is when, there's a fucking car crash outside.
Mm.
Kaboom. Like I actually started to predict 3 to 4 following events after that first deja vu. I was then predicting a couple more deja vus that happened within just a few minutes period.
I think that like at the same time it could be attributed like, so I always get deja vu after. It happens to me the event, and I'm like, wait, that happened before. That kind of thing. Mine works that way,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it could be because you're looking out for patterns of deja vu. You might notice it more. There's always that kind of balance that you've got to think about as well. But it could also just be a lot of deja vu going on.
Yeah.
Like I'm not closed-minded.
I think
there could be a lot of deja vu going around.
Yeah, I mean, we do live, somewhat quite mundane, formulaic lives. We do tend to do the same things at the same time.
Yeah.
Every day and things. So a certain amount of that happened yesterday. Yeah, because it fucking did, right? Like, there's no great mystery here. Like, you have done that before. But when you get the deja vu, and it's like there's no way it happened before, because I haven't been I had quite one. I'd never been to Spain before, so there's no way that I did that predicting thing where I somehow felt like, there was something. There's some people arguing, and somehow some people arguing over the baggage or whatever.
Yeah.
Somehow felt like, oh, deja vu, and then I knew that a particular type of car and color of car as a taxi was going to pull up, and it did. And like this is the first time I've been. There's nothing particularly Spanish about it, but like this is happening in Spain. It's the first time I've been to Spain, so this ain't happened before in any stretch of the imagination. But I'm feeling very much like it has.
Yeah.
No.
Sometimes it just happens. Like I've had that before, and I thought that's never happened. But like I'm quite routine anyway, because I've got a little bit of that autism, so I end up quite in a routine.
Well,
Wait, I think we've got
we're
you
back.
loaded there.
That's all
What
right.
were you saying?
Yeah, these things happen, and we've gone like way off topic at this point. Anyway, if you're just joining us, this is a bit fucking weird, isn't it? You came for some arm wrestling, and we're talking about deja vu. Welcome to a Sniktcast, kids. This
Pretty
is how I roll.
I don't mind it though. You might as well. It's always interesting to see what people have to say.
It is because people may have right. I just think, for example, you guys. I think people may think, oh, some arm wrestlers, gym freaks, testosterone fueled, raging.
That's exactly what I am. Look at this
fucking
guy. Look at this guy right here. This muscle bound.
pub dwelling northern scum. But it's like, no, we can have conversations about, the metaphors within movies. And,
the reality is,
deja
a
vu.
lot of people who arm wrestle, they'll do it for specific reasons, and a lot of people I've gripped up with are actually probably a little bit more educated than me. And I'm not saying I'm stupid, but a lot of guys who are really professional in things that they do outside of arm wrestling as well, I've gripped up with as well, I've trained with. So there's definitely no shortage of a variety of people, and a lot of people have their own reasons to arm wrestle, and I have my own, and it's definitely not for the muscle bound freak, like for an ego reason or anything like that. It's just because it's something to do with it's sustainable for me and it's healthy, and I can do it basically.
The point you said about the stereotypes as well, it's very interesting because everyone's perception subconsciously of arm wrestling is the masculine. It's one versus one. It's like who's the strongest. So everyone's got that subconscious perception. So when you find out that actually it's all about it's respectable. It's all you're trying to better each other. You're trying to like you're practicing moves with each other. It's not just an ego trip. And
working together, it's a synergy.
Yeah, and once you've been in that environment as well, you can then it breaks down a lot of walls to sociably talk about a lot of subjects.
We've had a lot of talks in here that have made us feel a little bit better about ourselves, just when we've been arm wrestling, and it's been enlightening sometimes to just have a nice chat and just get your sense feeling better. Really, it's like that's nice as well. And
but even if you're a nerdy person, but you've got friends that are all into sports and they're all masculine or whatever, if you once you've arm wrestled with someone and you find out they're into similar things, you can be that nerdy person around anyone, because it's like you're also doing something very physical and something very demanding that actually creates respect between you. It creates a bond that's like, I appreciate that you're putting in the work here, and I can see you're improving each week, and even just like gripping up with someone and feeling their strength, it's like you can feel that
you've worked hard to get where you are strength-wise, so you know that they must have worked pretty hard.
It makes you respect yourself.
As you say, it's not a sport. You're not looking to hurt the other guy.
No, not
at all. So
if you want to do that, you go boxing or you do mixed martial arts or whatever. So it's cool. It's got a lot of respect.
It's about the challenge.
There's a lot of some of the old timers, some of the big hitters who are really big on the scene and strong guys. They'll come to all the small events. They'll get involved with the community. They'll literally want.
You can message the biggest, not the biggest and the
community.
biggest, but you can message most people. Like a bunch of these versus West superstars, you can message them on Instagram, with the exception of like the most busy and famous ones. Yeah. You can message them to ask them for advice. Some people message them if they're asking them about stuff, and they'll just reply.
We've got one friend who I think he bought a table like this, but it's got a big kind of contraption on where you can
pulley.
You
Pull
can
it,
like
basically.
pull on it like a machine and practice like you're against someone.
All right.
And I think he bought it off like a pro arm wrestler
Yeah,
who's got his own.
Casimir, he's got his own pull company.
Yeah,
He assembles his own pulleys, and it is a great machine.
Yeah,
But a lot of
I was going to ask more generally, about the community. Then, I mean, I think you basically answered the question, but like that you do, it can be very collaborative, rather as well as competitive. But like you often you'll share tips and skills
like, a lot
and
of time.
training and things like that.
That's all it is. It's bringing everyone together,
Yeah.
and it's not only just literally. It's not only just sharing tips about arm wrestling. It's sharing tips about like rehabilitating an injury, like
making you feel better.
A sequence of stretches that, like, so for example, I've always got like tendon issues in me traps, and like
basically just all around here. We're talking.
When before arm wrestling, I just thought the traps was this muscle here, but really trap, it goes from your neck to here and then down your scapula, down back to your spine. So like this kind of shit. And obviously I've been having physio, I've been doing all kinds of things to kind of better it, but moving it and using it, that's the medicinal. That's moving it is what kind of gets it working back to normal, because it's the first step, isn't it? You know what I mean? When you stop and you can seize up. If you're not active,
if you're not moving, movement's medicine. I think for a lot of things.
Even just tips, literally off the table, about exercises, workouts, different kinds of routines that lads here do, but also like what professionals are doing and posting on Instagram. It's amazing to see from a large spectrum. But then talking about other subjects as well. It is a great community because you talk so much about rehabilitating your body. It gives you trust in people. Do you know, when you do those routines and you get better from it, and your injuries become stronger than they were before you were injured, you're like, wow, there's some kind of method to this madness. The guy that told me that, I'm going to listen to more what he says. Yeah. So then, do you know what I mean? It's
everyone
a cool community.
Everyone gets all this from each other. It's like,
yeah.
What we're going to say now. There were a match from East versus West the other day where one guy who pulls in a particular style, he does that flop that I was talking about earlier, and he got beat out on it because he's a good athlete, but it's just his only lane to really use. He didn't really have much else to do yet. And then at the end of the match, the guy who won him were talking to him about it. And then someone who had faced the other guy before had come through, who also presses and who was beating him in a press. And he says, they started talking about, you've got to do this the cut camera operator's probably like, you've got to do this to beat him, you've got to do this to beat him. So you'll beat someone or they'll beat you, and you'll exchange tips on how to beat each other, basically.
Yeah.
And that's
always. I personally, I'd love to hear stories like that, whatever it might be, whatever the medium, the guest that I have on might be working within. When there's a community like that, I always love to hear that, because my time before this spent playing in rock bands. Shocker, who would have guessed? Stereotyping, but I felt it was like far too competitive. Like, I wanted to talk to other brands, embrace other bands, swap numbers, agents, landlords, bookers, gigs, get your gig at this place, a gig at that place, do this. This guy does a good deal on t-shirts and merch, this recording studio, whatever. Like, let's all help each other out. And in the rock scene, it was kind of like, if anybody had anything that gave them a leg up, they kept it to their fucking selves. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
sometimes people
that's because it's all money driven, mate. That's why. Anything that's money driven, you've got to be your own business plan, aren't you? You've got to put that first, and you've got to be ruthless in that, because that's all it is. That's it.
Plus, when it comes to arm wrestling, what works for a pro might not work for you. So most of the time, if you get general advice from a pro, it's fine. But a lot of them are usually, unless they're prepping for a big match as a state guy, they're usually pretty open to what they're doing.
They're good guys. I mean, they're giving you. I mean, it's advice to better your health. I mean, what better advice can you ask for? There's no gain other than, look, I've done this for me and this helped me out. Try it for yourself. It works. Do you know what I mean? It's like
in arm wrestling as well. There's the current #1 guy in the world by a large margin, and he's had a bit of a rivalry with the #1 from North America. But no matter what state they're in now since the first match, if one of them's off season, if one of them's on cycle or whatever, they'll both arm wrestle each other just for laugh, just to test the sense all the time. And it's like, how often would you see like Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua just jumping or whatever? I don't know what boxing's like, but how often would you see them two just jump gloves on and go fully at it, because they do go hard. Like, how often would you see that just for the fans, basically? You won't, pretty much.
Well,
It's entertaining. There's hours of YouTube videos of arm wrestling. If you just type in like the funniest clips, arm wrestling, like you'd laugh your head off at all the commentary and what gets said, and like like just some of the guys like really
some
like,
people smacking up tables.
But they're not doing it aggressive to the other guys. They're hyping themselves.
Yeah.
There's one guy who was trying to hype himself up that much, and he nearly passed out on his feet, just hyping himself up.
But one guy who his fingers are all mangled, and it's because he slaps the table out like to get his anger and his adrenaline going. He's dislocated multiple fingers, basically.
Fuck.
So obviously,
at your own risk, you can be like that. Wagner Bortolato nearly passed out, and Matt Master broke his fingers.
Wagner Bortolato, is it?
Yeah, he's a Brazilian arm wrestler, I think.
Brazilian guy.
A South American arm wrestler.
Yeah, just a big,
he's a crazy guy.
I mean, big Zeus beard.
Really inspiring story, though. Apparently, he overcame like being an alcoholic, really rough life circumstances. But now he's a bit like he seems to get a lot of sponsors. He's an arm wrestling superstar. People really like him. He's really fun.
But he was trying to hype himself up that much for this to pull this guy in this competition. That he's full adrenaline. He nearly passed out like this. And the commentator said,
wobbling around on his feet.
I think he's just passed out on his feet. Crazy stuff.
So while we're just touching on hyping up, do you guys, would there be any? What would be your? Do you have like a workout or sparring playlist? Does music? Does a music get you guys pumped?
Connected.
Yeah, we sometimes just have videos on. We sometimes just have YouTube on, but most of the time it goes towards metal. Sometimes bassline tunes, anything upbeat. Really, it's usually just upbeat stuff.
I think we've even had like battle tracks on before. Yeah, like all Nordic kind of stuff, and all kinds of stuff.
Bit of the Doom soundtrack here and the X. Why not? You know, that has to be done.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that working. Right, look, I'm going to wrap this up and I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to thank you very much for your time. It's been educational and entertaining, which is what I'm aiming. Exactly what I'm aiming for here. So, thank you very much for this.
Yeah, thanks for the conversation. It's been great.
Yeah, it's been good.
It's been great. I'll be watching your careers. We'll be keeping in touch. We'll
hopefully, if I stay all right, if I stay healthy and I keep going, we're going to try and get ourselves onto the scene a little bit more. Maybe we'll have a little bit of stuff to hopefully maybe touch back on in future, something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure we will.
Cool. I'll drop you a follow as well. You seem pretty cool dude. All right.
I'm sure we will.
All the best.
So this is the tricky part.
Yeah.
For me, as I'm doing this, I can't really find a good way to end these things, right? So I was just wondering, what about? Do you have an inspirational quote we could leave off with, either from yourself or from a movie or from some a celebrity or an athlete or something that you admire?
I don't know. Just let me think. Inspirational quote from an athlete. It's like Devon Larratt, one of the world's best arm wrestlers, is like, don't be scared of the chance of losing. Basically, think of the chance of winning. Don't be motivated by the fear of losing. Be motivated by the chance of winning, basically. Because
there you go, kids.
There's always a chance that you're going to lose. Something fair enough, but like, that's the same with everything. So if there's a chance you're going to win, why are you not going to do it? It's like, it's just stereotypical 100% of your shots you don't take kind of thing, but it's true. So, you know what I mean?
True.
Where there's a will,
very
there's
true.
a way.
Yeah, classic where there's a will, there's a way kind of stuff. I'm sure I'll be sat later at home and I'll think, I could have used that one and that would have been better, but as soon as we hang up, I'll be like, oh, that would have probably been a better one. But yeah,
it's always the way. So, again, thank you very much for your time, kids.
Yours as well, mate. I really appreciate it.
So you heard it here, kids. Don't be afraid to lose. There's always a chance you're going to win. There you go. Words to live by. I'll be back. This is completely redundant for people. If you're watching it on YouTube about 3 weeks later, this is completely redundant. But I'll be back tomorrow with singer-songwriter Lexi Whiteside. In the meantime, as the sun sets slowly in the west, I bid you a fond farewell.
See you later.